How can you describe something as a cult that is backed by independent science all over the world?
I just did.
Yes, you did, but it's science. It's not a belief. And that young man knows his science. I know
How do you
my
know he
science.
knows his science? He studied in politics
because
and philosophy.
I know him. I have spoken to him. I know him.
And how do you know him?
He has, because he is a supporter of Just Stop Oil, as I am. We are talking about, you need to listen, and your listeners need to listen. This is serious. And nobody's asking to stop the oil in 2 years' time. This is a sensible demand that says in 8 years we have enough oil and gas left for 8 years, and in that time we have to get off it because it's killing us.
What are we going to replace it with?
We have to get on with investing in renewables.
No, that's not an answer, is it? We're going to replace it with a mother's love, are we? Is that what's going to replace it?
No, Nick. What we do is...
What are we going to replace it with?
Listen... We stop investing.
No.
$236 million
What are
a
we
week.
Going to replace it with?
Taxpayers' money. Just listen to me out.
Madam,
I'm answering your question.
Madam, what are we going to replace it with?
I'm trying to answer you. 236 million quid of taxpayers' money a week is currently going to subsidise
So what are we going to
oil
burn
and
the
gas.
money? Is that what we're
If we take that money and we invest it in renewables in the way we need to, I've just had solar panels on my roof, and that's making such a difference to my bill.
So you want to go for solar panels?
Solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy,
Okay.
236.
You honestly think we can have that to supply the whole
money.
of the United Kingdom in 8 years?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
You're
we
not
need
serious.
to make that shift. Ask the scientists.
8 years, from a crofter's cottage in the Shetland Islands, all the way down to a tower block in Sunderland, they're all going to be powered by solar.
We are surrounded by waves.
Fiona,
we have not even started on this yet.
Intellectually, you're nuts. Not as a person.
236 million quid a week to the oil and gas companies that are killing us is what's nuts. Caring about the green...
How are you going to...
It's nuts.
Madam,
that's nuts.
Let me take you to some of inner city areas of London, Manchester and other cities, Birmingham. How are you going to power all those tower blocks?
236 million quid a week.
No. Stop quoting that figure at me, please. How are you going to get power?
Stop investing that in the technology.
No. How are you going to get power into all those tower blocks? You're telling me solar panels are going to heat a 30-storey... No.
You're not listening, Nick.
No,
like with Emma, you're not listening.
You can't
solar, wind and tidal. And the truth is
They're in Birmingham. Where are they going to get the tides from Birmingham?
Because once we start investing in renewables, we will solve all the storage problems. Well, then in that case, your children and mine and my grandchild doesn't have a future.
Of course they do. Why do you allow yourself to be swayed by this alarmist tosh?
Why do I allow myself to be swayed by international...
Do you remember the world was all going to end? Do you remember the world was going to end with aerosols and that was going to punch a hole in the ozone?
No, that wasn't going to...
Yes, it was. Then the world was going to end with the year 2000. You're such a bright woman, but you are easily led.
Get somebody to explain the International Panel for Climate Change to you, Nick. You don't know your stuff.
Do you know these two, assuming they're at least your colleagues, if not your friends? What were they hoping to achieve yesterday? Good morning to you.
Morning, Nick. Hi, thank you for having me on. Just to introduce myself, I'm Emma, I'm 32.
Yes.
And I'm a librarian from Glasgow. And thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Emma, indeed.
Things to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, and obviously, I do know the two involved. And I don't know if you were hearing all the jeers and the reaction from the crowd, but it is quite a brave thing to do, to push through this kind of politeness barrier that we have in society and do something that gets attention to this like crucial issue.
Yes, I mean it's also very disruptive and also spoils the enjoyment of people who I imagine probably have paid quite a lot of money to see this and they don't get to see the game.
But I think it's kind of a bit of a bizarre game of attention that we have to play with the media. You know, we have to do something, this attention grabbing, to get some eyes on the fact that our government is committing what is an act of genocide in 2023 by expanding fossil fuel production when we know the consequences of it. And so I find it bizarre to be talking too much about a square of green fabric and snooker balls and Henry Hoovers when we're going to be sitting here and being spectators watching entire nation states be annihilated by climate change and do nothing about it.
Then why did your organisation, if you find it bizarre, Emma, why did your organisation target a snooker tournament?
No, I don't find that bizarre. I find it bizarre that we have to do these things to become newsworthy. That's what I find bizarre.
You're not serious, or are you suggesting that my listeners and most people who consume media are now not aware? Are you suggesting they're not aware of Just Stop Oil and your motives and wishes?
No, not at all. And that's exactly why we've done this, because we are going to be taking to the streets from the 24th of April, doing slow marches across the city every single day. And that is being disruptive, but it's within our legal right to protest. And so we're encouraging people, if they agree with the message that we have, to come out on the streets with us. Yourself, Nick, if you agree that we should have no new oil and gas because it's a basic, first step to tackling this emergency, then we need people to get out on the streets with us, sign up with us at juststopoil.org and show that solidarity. And this is the diversity of tactics that we need in order to get the change that we need.
Why do you need to disrupt sportsmen and sportswomen's and spectators' lives? Why? What justifies you to do that?
Well, Nick, you were just talking about the suffragettes, and you were just talking about disrupting the Grand National. Can you not see the connection between the things that people have done in the past and the things that we're doing now?
No, I can't, I'm afraid.
You can't, but you just talked about it earlier. Are you really saying you can't understand
no, because I'm going to ask, because I ask a question of my audience, it doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it. No, I don't see the similarity.
You don't see the similarity?
No, because I would point to
disrupting the horse race and Emily Davison disrupting the horse race.
No, because, if we limit ourselves to your particular issue, if we may, today, we discussed the horses yesterday. I am told that the British government has gone further than most any other Western government in trying to tackle this problem and setting in motion certain deadlines that companies and others.
No, Nick, surely you can't believe that. We're not silly. The British public are not silly. We know that opening the first coal mine in 30
I think you are lamentably silly to jump on it.
Action.
I think you're lamentably silly to jump on a snooker table and cover it in orange dye, by the way.
Opening new oil and gas. We can't be told that opening the biggest, an oil field that's going to emit more emissions than the poorest 23 countries combined. We know that's not climate action. I know that your listeners, I don't think it's the problem that we don't know what the government is doing. If the UN, if their own climate change committee, if the International Energy Agency, if the World Bank, if every 700 scientists have written to the government, even the Labour Party, all the other parties agree with our demand. There's no benefit for the British people in continuing oil and gas exploration. Not only is it going to destroy our livable future, destroy our water systems, our food systems.
And you honestly think that stopping a snooker game is going to change that?
I've already explained, Nick. I've already explained that diversity of tactics. You have these media-grabbing, attention-grabbing actions, which get us. I was just talking to someone in Australia at 12 last night and explaining what the UK government is doing and what our tactics are. There are diversity of tactics. The other tactic, obviously, and the one we're asking people to get involved with, is getting out on the streets and showing up and marching. Because if you can't draw the comparison between people marching on the streets and change and direct action, then I'm very confused about our grasp of how we've got to the rights that I've.
Emma Brown. Okay, I am grateful. Emma Brown, thank you for coming on. You are from Just Stop Oil. You have mentioned those marches a couple of times. I think most of my listeners will support something such as a march. It's when you choose to disrupt a sporting tournament. I appreciate you weren't involved in the Grand National, but that was a couple of days ago, and the snooker, which is what your colleagues were involved in here.
Hello, Nick. Yes. What a bunch of lunatics. Where do I start? I think they should, from my belief of, from oil, certain things come from it, not just putting fuel in your car. If I believe they use it for rubber, for your tyres, they use it in plastics, and so forth, and so forth. There's so many things that come from it. You should ask these people, do you drive? Do you use a mobile phone? The mobile phone that probably the woman was ringing from was probably made from plastic.
Do you remember how desperate we were to get something called plastic gloves during COVID and plastic aprons, which saved the lives of thousands, possibly tens of thousands of people? But presumably they're allowed, but other products aren't.
And I understand why these people are taking the action that they're taking, because they're They're deeply worried about what's going on in the world. They're deeply worried about... hear me out first. They're deeply worried about the state of the planet, and they're feeling that their government, and this is the real issue, Nick, that you're not really talking about. We need to focus... But hang on, hold on, listen. You have to focus on the government and their policies. I agree with you that we're not going to get this done in 8 years.
Right.
I'm not denying that. I'm in agreement with you in those terms. But we need to look at the options that we're taking. We need to look at big business and corporates, because we're all talking about money and financing and how we're going to do all of this. Well, I'm sorry, we've got to make hard decisions about the future. And that's what it comes down to. And then we've got to look at how we finance that. I'm not saying I've got...
And you think disrupting a snooker tournament does that?
No, I agree, Nick. I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go, but it does highlight who they are. No, it doesn't cast them in a positive light, but I think a lot of aspects of their message the public would agree with.